Today we're in Hawk Point talking with Mayor Mark Seigler about what's going on in the city, what's been getting done, and what's ahead. Mayor, first off, appreciate you taking the time. For people watching, go ahead and introduce yourself and what your role actually looks like day to day here in Hawk Point.
Yep, I am Mark Stigler. Been the mayor for 5 years now, going on to the next term. I'm uncontested in this next election. Day to day, as I see over day to day operations, make sure we're staying in compliance with the state. Make sure we're staying in budget categories. Signing checks, bills, approving them. That's pretty much it. Day to day.
Did you always want to be mayor ever since you grew up? Or
Not really.
how you end up in a
It just
mayor
happened.
position?
I left, resigned as fire chief about 6.5 years ago, and the former mayor, Robert, he said, hey, we need a board member, an alderman. So I stepped in for an alderman for about a year until he moved out of the city limits. And then I was in the spot and I filled in when he left and been there since then.
When people hear mayor, what does that actually mean in a town like Hawk Point?
Ugh. I don't know on that one.
We can skip it if you need to.
Yeah, I don't know. What does it mean?
What does it mean being a mayor?
It means you get yelled at, complained at, all complaints are towards you, every complaint,
All right, what's currently happening in Hawk Point that people should know about?
Right now, we got some new business in town. Our businesses are doing real good. Current businesses, new one. There's a couple new houses and developments interested in coming to the outskirts, wanting to annex in, get water and sewer out to there. Still in the early works. I know the city and the fire department, we've been preparing with the ambulance district because they're going to shut down Highway 47 for an extended period of time. So that's going to kind of cut us off for any kind of help we need. The ambulance, we don't have one up here. So we've been working with the ambulance district on trying to get an ambulance up here during the shutdown. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in the background just to make sure that our town, is protected whenever the resources are cut off. It'll be limited to, I don't know exactly when they're going to do it yet. But, Warrenton, they're taking out the main bridge on 70. So that kind of cuts some kind of resources, from like the fire department that way, another help. But that's one thing we've been trying to do as a city and with the fire department, is that you're trying to make sure that, those areas are kind of covered whenever they do close 47 down for good. For a long period of time.
Do we know when that's going to happen yet? Or
they haven't set a for sure date yet. I know I started working on a couple easements or something. I know they're moving the poles right now, but they haven't gave an exact time on when they're going to shut it down. But I think it's this summer, I believe.
And did I understand that right? You all are trying to get an ambulance
stationed up here. Yep. We're trying to do. I know the ambulance is trying to figure out the most they can do. I heard something about peak times. Exactly what times those are, not 100% sure yet. But like I said, we're staying up to date on those.
What are you working on right now?
That's the main thing we're working on. Other than that, we're working on, getting our streets repaired, potholes. We're going out to bid on trying to see if we can overlay or get some chip and seal on some of them. A lot of that depends on pricing. And, a lot of people think, you're a city, you get tax money when we don't have a lot of money. We're a small town. That stuff's real expensive. So we try to do the best we can, for everybody in town with what little bit of money we got.
How do you handle stuff like that? Is it a lot of your revenue come from businesses? Is it all homes?
With the sales tax, water sales, sewer, there's so much of that, that, the water and sewers got to stay in that, so much of it can only go towards other stuff. And then, the rest of it all is off sales tax over years of putting money away or, like for a year you get $4,000 for street fund, and that goes in the streets and it takes a lot of time to build up in smaller cities.
Is that kind of how it works? So you just year by year kind of save up?
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah, it goes in the street fund. Yep, there's so, like same with else. We got a snow fund, street fund, cemetery. For mowing. So much of the budget goes to that every year. It get all broke down at budget time.
You mentioned some new business coming into Hawk Point. What do we have added here?
Added here, one of the newest businesses has been Roadhouse. It's been a pretty good addition to the current businesses.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They got live entertainment, Friday night, Saturday night, and on Sundays. Good food. But also Cliff and Ellis, they've been here a long time. They have great food. Back Roads has good food. VFW also has, great food. Charlie's Parlor, their new coffee ice cream shop. That place is, pretty awesome too.
What are some challenges the city is dealing with right now?
The prices of things, everything keeps going up, stuff we do day to day. Fuel's going up, gas is going up, parts for skid loaders, parts for, our lift stations, they're going up significantly. They take forever to get, when you order a pump, sometimes they're 6 to 8 months out, to get a pump. and then have, wastewater pumps, repaired is also a long period of time. But anything that we, that we need has went way, way up, and you kind of got to, raise rates sometimes, offset those costs. Nobody wants to pay more, but you got to keep up labor rates. Even have officers or a city guy. Those rates are, you got to compete with neighboring places, or you won't have nobody.
Well, let's talk about some of those services that you all provide in a small town. So, what all do you all provide?
So we do here. We provide water and sewer. We got one public works guy full time, and then we're looking to hire a part time guy. Hard to come by because it's lower pay. But we take care of the streets, mow grass, take care of the park. Police officer. We have one full time officer, and we have some part time officers that get us as much cover as it possibly can.
What are people in Hawk Point most concerned about when they talk to you?
Right now, potholes. There's a lot of potholes. And then just it depends on what it is. Water, all kinds of different stuff, but mainly potholes. And like I said, we're in the process of getting all this filled in, and like I said, getting the best solution to get the streets back under control for what we can afford.
Well, let's talk about water. Are you pretty familiar with the well project?
Oh yeah. Well, which well project?
The one. My understanding is it's going to come all the way through. So from Winfield,
Winfield.
Countywide.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it. With that, yeah.
Is that going to have a positive impact at all, or is there something else that you?
I mean, it's going to be years before it makes it here. As of right now, we have our own well and stuff, and we're doing fine on water. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, from what I see, quite a few years before it makes it this far.
Oh, okay. Is there another well project?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
So you guys don't piggyback off of them at all?
Nope. No, we got our own wells. Mm-hmm.
What happens when that comes in? Do you think that does the whole county? This is kind of like off the record, but does the whole county go?
Don't have.
I've heard such mixed things about that.
Yeah, they don't have. I guess you can volunteer. Volunteer, kind of sign up to get into it. You don't have to take it. No, I mean you'll have to pay for the water. Obviously, but in all reality, yeah, the water is cheaper to make from a water plant than pump from wells, and it's better quality
is
water.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, yeah. When you break down per gallon, it absolutely is.
Wow.
Yeah, especially when you get bigger. Like for us, no, it wouldn't make sense, to build a water plant for us. But like piggyback off of a plant, yeah, it absolutely would.
But it'd be better to piggyback off of that than to just continue to pump your own water.
If it ever made it this far, it would be better. Yeah, it would save us a lot of money. It would have better water, softer water, definitely. Because all the water here is hard. That's what another complaint is we get hard water. It's well water. We put chlorine into it, to kill the bacteria. That's it. But yeah, this area has very hard water. That's the benefit though, is the soft water.
What does growth look like for Hawk Point?
It's getting there. We've tried to stay small as long as we can. There's some every time there's an empty lot here in town for sale, it's bought up. There's people, wanting to build houses. There's a few houses going in. There's some people wanting to do some little duplexes. That's in the works of getting planned. And like I said, there's some outskirts that are wanting to do some and get water and sewer out there. But yeah, the growth is coming. We can't stop it. We've stayed small as long as we could and been pretty lucky.
Well, as someone that's been from Hawk Point for quite a while, are you trying to grow, stay the same, or find a balance?
Trying to find a balance. I mean, it's ultimately, you want to stay small, but it's inevitable. And it's if we don't grow, there's no more revenue coming in, and it's easier with more people coming in, keeping up with the revenue, businesses, stuff like that. People support our businesses. I mean, grow has to happen. You can't stop it. But this community, we have a great community. There are a lot of great people who live here. And a lot of the business here are awesome. If something happens, this community is the first step up, make sure someone's taken care of. A lot of the businesses, they're the first ones to donate a raffle basket or, host a stop for a side-by-side ride or, pretty much, like I said, the businesses, we're lucky with our business that we have here because they donate, and they don't get enough credit for it. That's the first thing when you want a donation, you go to the business. Like people don't realize like how much money and time that takes from them. You go buy a nice basket, you got to put it together, you host a ride, you bring people in, and it's just, like I said, we are lucky to have a pretty good community here.
Why do you think people choose Hawk Point to live?
Right now it's small. And like I said, again, there's a great morale here and there's a lot of good people here. For the most part, you can ask your neighbor for a hand, you can ask anybody for a hand and, they'll help you. Again, like I said, a lot of the businesses, they'll help you. There's a lot of good people in this town.
For someone who wants to be involved in the city, what can they do?
They can attend, our city meetings. We have, one every month. It's the first Monday, 6 p.m. And if they even want more, we have an election, every year. Alderman terms are every 2 years, and mayors every 2 years. There's always election. Get involved. And again, a lot of people have stuff to say about how it's being ran. Not just here, but other cities. But get involved. We welcome people to our meetings, and you should be involved in meetings. In my point, to any city, your people should be involved in meetings more than what they are.
What does the government in Hawk Point look like? I know there's the mayor, obviously. How many
Yeah, there's a
aldermen?
mayor. We got 4 aldermen. Yep.
4 aldermen.
Yep.
Is that divided up by wards, or is that?
No, they used to be, but they couldn't get some, so it's just 4 aldermen throughout the town.
Well, what's next for Hawk Point?
Other than preparing for the shutdown, 47, we've been putting money slowly in, our city park. That started, before the mayor, before me, so we kept going, put new playground equipment in, mulched it. Recently, we redone all the concrete in the pavilion, new basketball court, new basketball hoop, new fencing up around most of it to, make it, spruce it up a little bit to get the kids somewhere to go. Other than that, just try to project and kind of keep up with the growth and, take care of our small town.
All right, well, let's back up a little bit. So, from becoming mayor, you were fire chief before, you said, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, how has that transition been coming into a political side of things?
A lot different. Here, I'm the person that gets all the complaints on the blame spot, for everything, because I'm the face, I'm the one that they come to or call or see, but that comes with it. Anything the city guy does or don't do, or one of our officers do, I'm the first one to get the call, and, they did this ain't right, but I mean, it's part of it. On the fire
but the private
side,
jet offsets all that, right?
yeah, yeah, there ain't no private jet, but, in the fire department, it wasn't, they're, that you call them for help, you see them when they need your help, other than, when you go around, ask for more tax money or something, other than that, they're well loved. We have a great fire department still around here, and I still help out, quite a bit, but, again, we are blessed to have a very good volunteer fire department around here.
You were talking about earlier, we had Hawk Point's got some events coming up.
Yep. Yeah. There's some of the businesses are putting on some events. Cliff and Ellis has their car show in August, late August. I think it's the third weekend in August. But kind of pay attention to them on exact dates. And then the VFW, they picked up and continue doing the Heritage Day. That's in September. Like I said, follow them or get a hold of them on the exact dates. And then the St. Mary's Catholic Church, they do their fall October festival over at St. Mary's. So those are some pretty good events, people come out to and, just come up and support them.
All right. Well, if I could open the floor to you, you had 30 seconds to kind of wrap up and speak to your constituents here. What would you say?
I just would say, it's a great community. Appreciate everybody lives here. And again, to all of our businesses here, we really appreciate all you guys and hope to continue moving forward.
So I had heard that you all had a new company kind of move in, and it's really brought a lot of, I guess, revenue is what you would call Black Fox Manufacturing. Can you touch on that at all?
Yeah, Black Fox Manufacturing, they come in and they've actually, a lot of our town doesn't know or realize, they actually are paying for our full-time officer. Is one of the things that, they have to provide security. And, it's a thing that's like, well, we can provide a full-time officer for Hawk Point and that counts for security. That's a major thing that they've done to really help out with police protection, in this town. And I'm very grateful, and so is the other alderman because, the full-time officer being around Monday through Friday has made a huge difference, for everyone in the city.
Have you seen any impact on that yet?
As far as the officer around, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we struggled for many years on getting police protection. The funds just weren't there. The city had to decide whether we want to have an officer here during the day or have an officer here during the nighttime or in the early mornings. Well, a lot of the stuff happens late at night, early morning. Now with, them coming into town and them, help supporting an officer for us, we can divide that up and also get a school, officer up at the school as much as we possibly can too, to help with the kids. So, the school kids really love the officer up there. But again, yeah, the officer has made a big benefit in town.
Yeah. What else are we missing?
That's about it.
This is like the only good city in the county. So you don't have anything crazy going on out here.
We got a pretty calm city, and we're not perfect by any means. Again, we have a good council, and a lot of the decisions we all talk about decisions. We do what we think is best for the city. And, we listen to our town, of what they prefer, what they don't, there's no fighting and arguing. That's not why we're here. That's not why any of us want to be here. And it's unnecessary. It doesn't look good to your public. But we talk well through every decision before anything's made. That's one thing I like about this. This town's always been, the council's always been that way, is, they've always made a decision. It's like, I don't get to vote. Well, the only way I vote is if I break a tie, and I've only had to break a tie in one time. And that was right after I took mayor, and it was over having chickens. That's the only tie that has been broken. Other than that, everybody else is on the same page, and it's well thought through before, they vote on it.
Did you allow chickens or no?
Absolutely. I love chickens. Nothing better than a fresh egg than a store-bought egg.
How do you work through because I'm sure not everybody always agrees. So what makes Hawk Point and your governing board special? Like, how do you all work through things?
If there's something we can't agree on, we don't make a decision without, knowing the facts and knowing how it's going to hurt our community. And, if we'll go out and ask our community, if there's something we're unsure about, we'll ask around, we'll ask people, what would you do? What would you think? There'll be hearings. If they come up, the hearings, they address the concerns, and, we go that way.
You usually have a pretty good show out? People
not really. There some things people come up and voice their concerns. Yeah, about. And like I said, we like I said, take care of it the best we can. And again, like, there's a lot of thought put into it before we make a decision. On something. Depends on what certain things is, and a lot is having hearings. You put a hearing out, you advertise, you hope people come up. If they don't come up, then it's like, well, you had your chance to come up. But for the most part, most of the community, from what I understand, is pretty happy with a lot of decisions we make.
I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down. And,
I appreciate you coming. Come back anytime.